Alright, so this is the unboxing of the Rosamps SLO100. So I opted, I know there was a 50 kit and there was a, I think the 50 watt kit. So I specifically always looked at this particular SLO100 as a specific, very specific kind of circuit. And I've got the plug-in for it, and I really enjoyed that. And they did a hell of a job emulating what that amp sounds like. But I'm just going to do a quick unboxing of this. This took about, got held up in, I think, customs in Italy for a couple days, but it wasn't bad. So it took, I think, about 10, 11 days, something like that, to ship. So it wasn't too bad. We got nice foam on top here. And got a nice pamphlet full of all of the resistance, K values, all that kind of good stuff. We got the amp parts list, so we'll keep that organized. And then it looks like we've got some schematics. Oh, cool. Oh, that's beautiful. Check that out. All right, very well laid out, colored. So that's really nice. So this is it's pretty straightforward. So that's awesome. So you got one of those, and then I guess this is just a original schematic. So this is nice. This is great. So this is full documentation, so I don't have to really worry about guessing and having to research other stuff. But I would suggest in the beginning, what I'm going to be doing is taking a lot of photographs, copying the inside guts of other SLO amps that people have done, so I can see that. So we've got a bunch of wires, and looks like these are, I guess those are, they look like input jacks, but I don't think that's what they are. Oh, they're fuse. That's the fuse. Okay. Ooh, it smells kind of funky. Almost smells like a turpentine or something like that. So we'll keep these things in the boxes, but you've got all the values are well written. So 10K and 15K, so it's got two of those. So it's very well done. There's no real hard guesswork to this. So we'll keep all these things. I'm just going to keep them in the boxes that they came in just right now. But this is another. This is one of the heavy guys. Oh, this is probably the thing that's causing the most weight right here. That's the, looks like this probably is the outpoint transformer. Could be input, I don't know. This is my first amp, so I'm a little ignorant to it. But this joker, this got to be 10, 12 pounds, easily. Oh yeah, probably even 15. That's heavy duty. So this is pretty massive. So I'm happy about this. It's one of the reasons I also went with the full big bad boys and everything like that, so I could get the signal the way I really wanted it, and so I can really, I've got a power soak Rivera rock crusher, so I can really crank this sucker and without going nuts. Ooh, jeepers creepers. So maybe that isn't the power transformer. Maybe this one's the power transformer. Jeez Louise! Holy crap! Oh my God, this thing's no joke. That has got to be 20 pounds, if any. That thing is ginormous. Look at the size of this sucker. That is badass. Oh, there's some bolts going through that sucker. Alright, so that's that one. Put that back in there, but that's definitely where part of the weight was from there. And I guess, so that was probably the input transformer. And then this one is maybe the choke. Oh, okay, these are the tube holders. And switches, gizmos, the tube rectifier tubes and the 12AX7 tube sockets. And then we got all of our input jacks and output jacks. Good stuff. All this is, I've worked with a lot of these things before, so I know these are quality parts. This is not a shit kit. I'm very happy with the way this is going to look at the end, because I can tell these are definitely high-end parts. So I'm not worried about this at all. So we got that. Let's get over here, and then so what do we got here? We got, okay, so we got some big capacitors, and this looks like it could be the choke. Yep. Looks like that's the choke. Yep. It's that guy right there. I'm not going to just keep that in the box for right in a second, so I don't get everything lost. But this looks like the plate. This is the board. Very nice. Very, very nice. This will work out great. It's got all the necessary writing and everything else on here. Oh, this is simple. This is like paint by numbers at this point. Look at this. You can see right here, you can see all the values. Tells you exactly what what's it called? The polarities and everything like that, so you can't get that screwed up. It's got the, this is going to be fun. This is now, see, some people were on Facebook, and I'm not just beating them up over that because they're generally concerned and stuff like that, but I mean, with a kit like this, with a board like that, this, I mean, really when you think about it, this is not any harder than building like a pedal, like a tube screamer or something like that. This is just more of it, but I mean, you can even see those things that I just got out of there, these guys. It's kind of dumb, but I mean, you can see exactly what these things are actually going to look like when they're actually done. So this is going to be fun, and I think it's going to go a lot faster than what a lot of people are thinking, especially with a kit like this. Now, if I was doing point-to-point, this isn't point-to-point because obviously we're doing printed boards. I didn't think this was a printed board type deal, but maybe that's the only way it'll actually work. So the last part is going to be chassis, or if you're British, chassis, aluminium. Which, by the way, I found out that aluminium was an invention by the British because originally the British used to say aluminum. And because America was bastardizing everything, they decided to change aluminum to aluminium, and that was them. So I talked to a British friend of mine. He says, no, we back in the day, probably 20 or 40 years ago, we used to say aluminum. Anyways, not a big deal. So this right here feels like a pretty solid, yeah, this is definitely steel. But yeah, this is a great looking chassis. It's got all the cool stuff on it. 5 12AX7s and 4 rectifier tubes, power tubes, whatever you want to call it, and good labeling in the back. I mean, this looks legit, even left the serial number blank, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's neat. So we'll have to figure out how to build a case for this head, but I am extremely happy. Now, I bought this system because it came from Italy. And I figured I don't want to ship tubes through Italy and just have them banged up, so I actually got my tubes from Tube Depot. I think the original kit on eBay was about $900, it was almost $1,000 with the tubes. So I got it from Tube Depot for just a little bit cheaper, and they're in Memphis, which I'm in Georgia, so it didn't take very long to get. But as far as what we've got started here, I think the first thing that we're going to do is we'll set this aside. Get these things out here, just start to get organized and look through the entire thing and make sure that we have all the parts together. And then I saw somebody else, what they basically did is they took the chassis and they started just putting in all of the pieces that work here, and then they start working on the board and they get the board attached and then start putting it together. So okay, so what we got today is I ended up buying something on Amazon, which actually sold through StuMac. It was the capacitor basically discharger, and it was just basically kind of a little piece of wood or some kind of, I don't know, composite or something like that, that basically is a metal rod that was tied to a resistor that's tied to basically this, so you can clamp this onto your chassis, and then the other side goes to one side of the resistor and the other side goes to this little prod. Now I actually couldn't find them at Lowe's, well, I didn't check Lowe's, but I saw it was, you could find them at Lowe's, but I couldn't find them, so I actually went to Hobby Lobby, out of all places. Didn't have it in Harbor Freight, didn't have it in Home Depot, didn't have it in Ace Hardware, so this was $3.99, and it came with 5 of them, so you could technically, and these are already cut to length, which is great, it's about a foot, so that's plenty of length for probing around, stuff like that. I actually think it's a little bit too long, but either way, point is this is solid, as you can see right here. So I can grind that down. Sorry about all the boxes. This is all the crap for all of these things just coming in today. But I've got my little belt sander in the background that I can you know, just turn this into just a little fine point and stuff like that, so I can touch all the points on the boards. But again, I got plenty of these, so this should be fine. This is actually it's a brass aluminum copper tin, so I'm going to check the continuity of this. But I was going to use these. It was just going to be great. I was just going to click that off, but it just said right here, low voltage, and on the back it said for electrical up to 300 volts, and it says do not exceed 300 volts, and I know that I'm going to be exceeding that, so I can't use those. This one right here is a much thicker wire, and it's already shielded, and it's intended to be for probes and stuff like that. So this is actually, I don't think I needed it. I've got a ton of these extra parts with the BNC connectors. I got more than I need for that. Plus I've got another one if I needed it, just for one channel. And I could always build another one. I could just take this end, just put it on something smaller, and then plug it into whatever I need to do, like down here or something like that. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I don't need that. So I'm just going to save that for later. And so what I need to do is I need to find in my arsenal of capacitors and resistors a 100 watt or 100 ohm resistor, and then just a whole bunch of what's called shrink wrap or shrink tubing, and we'll go ahead and put this together. As I just looked, I found this guy right here. So I'll go ahead and test the resistance on that and make sure that it is in fact working, and it's a 100 ohm, and that will be perfect for our little probe stick. All right, so all I basically did is I just took the resistor, I faced it backwards so I could roll it and have the lead far away from this, so that way when I put the contact for the lead from here, it'll be able to well, just not make contact with this. So this just has to be protected. So basically we got this just wrapped around here, and I'm going to solder that point, but we should be able to touch this lead right here and the front of this and still get the 100 ohms. I did test it a minute ago. So we'll go ahead and take these things off. Sorry about the shakes. These things here, and let's see what we got. Let's put it on one side and touch this lead. There we go. I'm shaking around, maybe I'm not touching it right here. Yeah, 102. There you go. So this is now making good conductivity, and we will go ahead and start soldering this together and then put the lead wire here. So after putting it all together, I actually forgot to put a thicker one because I couldn't get it over the alligator clip. So I just had to put it, I cut it, resoldered it, and put a couple things over it. So this is covered multiple times. This was a little bit hard to cover. I didn't have a wide enough one to actually cover this entire thing. So I just wrapped it with a couple of different shrink wraps, and then just gaff tape or electrical tape, and then gaff tape over the top of it. So it's super solid. I don't have to worry about any kind of like leads or exposure and stuff like that. But we clipped one end to the negative here with a common, and we'll go ahead and put it on there, and there we go. Same rating. And then what I did over there on the sander, as you can see, I just basically put, sorry, it's not really showing this, there we go. You can see it's got just a little bit of a point. So I just sanded it down so I can get pretty accurate with where I'm going to be actually touching those probes and stuff like that. So I'm very happy with this. And it literally, just from parts just sitting around, and just these little pieces, it cost me, $4 to make this instead of buying it for 45. So that's how you do it. It's pretty easy, but it'll keep you safe. So anyways, hope that helped. Finally getting around to actually starting to put this thing together. So we got all the parts kind of laid out, and what I'm doing now is I'm looking at the kind of the physical diagram. It's not really a schematic. This would be the actual schematic that they sent from right here. So if I needed to get voltages and those type of jazz, I can get that. But the card itself, these are pretty well laid out. As you can see, you don't have to worry about guessing and looking at the schematic for the actual board, but the board is, it's pre-printed, so we just have to actually put it together and solder those connections. But what I'm going to do is just put together the chassis. So what I'm doing is the layout makes sense, and this is kind of like the way the layout is. It's upside down. So as you can see, the amp is upside down, but it goes from depth, presence, overdrive, normal. So you can see from left to right, We got depth, presence, overdrive, normal. I've confirmed all of these potentiometers pretty much go all the way across from here. And we've got the clean, we've got the bright, we've got the normal, and the input. Those are all going to be essentially what these guys are going to be. So I'm just going to put all the switches and everything on the case. And I just need to double check. It looks like these things right here, those are the grounds. And so those are representative of, it says connect jack to the chassis, remove the paint. So these guys right here, those 4, I don't think there's anything else yet. So those 4, and that just basically represents these, where they actually grinded away that for you. So that's nice. You didn't have to do that. You can see this is already, there's a ground there. So those must be the main grounds to the actual chassis. So I don't see anything else with the remove the paint, but that's what we're starting with. So I will just go ahead and put together the potentiometers facing up in the direction they are and just follow from there. So before actually putting all these things into the amp, I'm just confirming now. You can see on here, it says A1M. So that's where those are. So I'm just kind of putting them in order. I turned all the knobs to the right or clockwise just so I could actually read all the values. So I'm just going to match them up. And unfortunately, like you can see here, this is pretty much not what you'd want. Sorry for the zoom, I'm trying to find it here. But you can see I can't really read that value because there's a line over the top of it. So that was kind of dumb, but I can kind of guess there's only those 2 values where they're 500Ks. So they're right here. So I assume since those are the only 2 that are 500 and they look like they're a little off, I'm just going to test the resistance and just see what it does. So let me back out of here and we'll just put the probes on there. Just go by one. And I need to test the other side. Just the left lugs. Yeah, so there we go. Got the right value on that. And that one's supposed to be 5K. So that one is 5K. So I can go ahead and throw those guys in there. That makes me happy. At least they're lined up. So I can just put them in the chassis, and that's how I'm going to start. So I'm just going to match the parts up to here first and then throw them in there after. So now I got the potentiometers in place. We're going to go ahead and put in for the 12EX7s. Now, if you look really closely, you can actually see where there's a 1, 2, 3, 4. So it tells you what the pins are. And so they're essentially just going to get mounted like say. So they all kind of pretty much are already in the orientation that they need to be. So we're just going to go ahead and put those guys in there. And I have a set of screws. So these are going to be the ones that are going to go there. I'll look at a reference picture just to make sure I'm using the right parts. And we'll see how those goes in there. So the end orientation of these particular screws is going to be obviously the post goes through, then you've got that little washer on top, and then the bolt. It was a little hard to get that in there because it was just wanting to fall off, but what I do is just set it on my lap, feed it through the bottom, drop the washer on top of it, and then essentially this actually came with it, which is really handy. Just goes on top of it, so you can use the screwdriver and just put this over the post. Just hold it there. Don't over crank it. I didn't turn this. I just usually turned the screw from the back, and it was easy enough to get in there. But the pictures of the diagrams don't actually show you the orientation of the screws and how they should be mounted. So I had to look at some reference pictures that somebody sent. So I'm just showing you what I'm doing right here. So this is something I was discovering because I was looking at the schematic, and it does say on here that there are pin positions, but on the actual device, I could not find any. Oh wait, they are there. Very hard to read. So there's 1, 2, okay, so it's just very, very difficult to read from a distance. You can't even see them because it's shadowed, but they are there, so that's pin 1. But the thing to notice is see that little notch right there at the top? They did put the notch at the top there, so that is the orientation of how they are actually going to go in. They're going to go in like that. So just make sure you don't accidentally put them notched in the wrong direction, so they should all be notched upwards. So these are all in a line like this, and essentially we're going to use the exact same screws to mount these as that we did those. So just be aware of that when you're looking for it. Again, due to the schematic, it's easier to kind of read as far as a top-down approach, but you can see that we've got the singles right here and we got the double right here on top. So I had to look at a picture just to make sure that I was doing it correctly, but that is the way it's supposed to be orientated, to where this has got a, I guess it's a clean, So that's really more or less the channel that's going to be switching from those two different things, but this is really just going to be, you know, bright switches and an overdrive for the, I guess, the section. So really, I guess this is more of a normal and overdrive. That's really the channel switch, and then this right here would just, I guess, just brighten and clean both the options. So I guess that's the way it's supposed to be set up. So I got these in here. Keep in mind they do come with these nuts right here that you can kind of adjust the height, or not the height, but the, well, it would be the height, but yeah, I just don't want these things sticking out like that from that much farther, so I just kind of got them as even as I possibly could, so the switches would just work fine. I may have to adjust them a little bit later, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Harder to mess with them once they're in there and soldered, but I think this is fine. So just double checking the work and hope that helps. Well, I've already broken something. This is the part for the fuse. I don't think it's going to be a big deal because obviously it's going to be self-containing, but I can't tell from the instructions. It doesn't really show anything, so I was trying to look at some buddy's pictures, but you've got these little grommets and they look like they would fit there, and somewhere else, but I guess, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's multiple holes where they could be coming through, so I don't know if they're supposed to be there, if it's supposed to be here, or whatever, so they don't really explain it, but there's 3 of them, and there's 2 of these, and I guess there was these washers and they just wouldn't fit, but I was trying to get these things through and they just were not coming through. I thought that's the way it was supposed to be mounted, but to force it through, grabbed a pair of pliers and just broke off that that sheet plastic there, so now I got to remove it because I don't think it's supposed to fit like that. But anyways, that's just what I ran into, so before I even got this thing even soldered one thing, I've already broken a piece. Classic. Well, I discovered where the grommets went. They are for the power supplies and all the cable routings, which are right here. They were for them, but they were packaged with these things, which was ultra confusing. That's where the grommets are, and the other one's here. So they don't list that, but yeah, it's not a big deal. I could probably just super glue this together right now. I've got the little pieces and shards and stuff, so it's just this stuff. So I'm probably just take a little bit of super glue, put it back together. Shouldn't be a big deal. It's just plastic, but that kind of pissed me off. So be aware. These are the just little washers that they are for the fuses. But yeah, they put these things in the same bag with those things. So that led me to believe they were supposed to be for that. Yeah, there you go. All right, so no harm here. Just did a little bit of super glue, put them together. Got it ready to go. Put the grommets in here and brought them over there. Really, the last thing to do is just put in the, what is that, switch? I guess with the input jack, and then these are just the effects loops, so I would assume those would be the last 3 of these guys. So where are they now? Put them over here. Gotcha. So I'd assume that that's what these would be, but I wouldn't imagine that would have been for a guitar input, but I guess it is. So those are input jacks and effects loop switches. That's it. That's the rest of the holes. So the rest of it's going to be just putting the board together and soldering and power supplies and all that stuff. Fun, fun, fun. All right. So we got pretty much everything where it needs to go. I'm going to be laying out the cables and wires and everything like that very, very slowly. Double checking everything to make sure it's in the right orientation. And we'll see how it all ends up. But it's looking pretty cool. Like an amp. And we'll get into probably building the board next with the soldering and all these components. And that should probably take me a couple days just to take my time with them and then figure it out as we go along. These things are the only thing that's going to be a little bit of a trip because they're so close together, but that might make it fairly easy. But I'm just going to keep everything fairly loose so I can kind of wiggle it into spots and then bring them around to where they need to be. Again, this is my first build, so there's going to be things to learn from it.